community development, youth development, mental and behavior health support, um, and much, much more. So at the community school, we have a food pantry, we have a clothing closet, we have a toiletry closet. We offer other resources for parents and community members if they want to get their GED. We have a job resource board where they can come in if they're looking for employment. We will assist them with working on their cover letter and their resume. They can go to our clothing closet to get free clothing to go to their interview or whatever. We also provide resources and connections if they need assistance with like BGE or with rental assistance. So we're like that hub of the community where they can come in and get any of the resources that they need. And even for our students with our enhanced academics, we have quite a few after school extracurricular activities. We've partnered with YouthWorks over the years during the summer, employing our students. We have other academic partnerships where our students can earn college credits while they're in high school. We've partnered with UB and Towson and with BCCC. We also have partnered with Grads to Careers when our students graduate to offer them certifications in other areas. At my particular school, we are what we call a CTE school, Career Technology and Education. So we know every student is not college material. So we also offer them a pathway in one of the following careers: nursing, pharmacy tech, homeland security, JRTC, construction, and HVAC. And so once our students enter into our school, they can choose one of those pathways. And not only will they graduate with a high school diploma, but they will also graduate with a certification in first aid, CPR, AED, and in nursing, they will receive their certification as a CNA, GNA, a farm tech. For our construction and HVAC program, they receive their OSHA 30 certification, and they'll also be NCCR certified. And for our homeland security, they receive a certification in emergency response. And JRTC is not necessarily a CTE pathway, it's more of a leadership and development pathway. However, if a student does decide to go into any branch of the military, they will be able to enter into a higher GS level and earn a higher income. And so with that being said, we offer all these wonderful tracks for our kids. And we have an awesome, awesome athletic department. We still carry the Lake Clifton name. Lake Clifton has a very rich history in the city of Baltimore. We produce student athletes over the past 4 years, starting with 2018. Every single one of our class valedictorians was a student athlete. 2018, he's at Morehouse. He will be a senior this year on a full academic scholarship. 2019, he's at Canisius College on a full scholarship. 2020, he's at Field University in Pennsylvania on a full scholarship. And this year, 2021, our class salutatorian, she is on a full academic scholarship at the University of Maryland College Park, and she's earning her degree, and she wants to be a doctor. And so that's just a few highlights of what we do at Reach Partnership as a community school. And there's many more other things I can keep rambling on about our school, but there are other schools in the city too that are community schools as well that service their surrounding communities and their students.
Okay. Thank you very much. And everybody, just make sure that your phones are muted while we're on, because we're on the radio and it kind of messes up the sound when we're on there. Thank you, Rhonda. So tonight we have back with us, we have Jason Rodriquez, we got Yolanda Pulley, and we have Pastor Shannon Wright. And they were actually on I forgot what day it was. One day last week they were on, and we were having the discussion about the Baltimore City public school system because of all of it's a lot going on at the school. I'm going to let them talk about it, but it's a lot going on at the schools that's been going on for years. So they actually had a protest, and I would like for you all to give us an update on the protest last week, for those who weren't able to make it, and also let us know what's going on right now. Whoever wants to start, whoever wants to come in. Jason, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was going to say, Jason, go ahead and start.
Yeah, well, I first of all, I want to thank Miss Rhonda for all that she's doing. I'm amazed by her program and what they're doing at that school. I think that when we talk about best practices, and many times me and Yolanda talk about not reinventing the wheel. That we already have some of the best, brightest, and brilliant educators already out there willing to put together great community oriented learning centers. This is the prime example of what we are talking about when we're talking about real community out of the box, bringing the teaching or bringing the education to where the children are in their environments, in their communities, dealing even with the parents from a holistic approach. So I just want to give that shout out to you and all that the staff and faculty do at that facility, because that's exactly what we're talking about. When we talk about 21st century education in Baltimore City, we're talking about education that wraps the whole family. If the family is uneducated, we educate the family. If the family needs resources and resume writing and GED and training, we train them too. Because if the parents are not doing good, we know the children can't possibly do good. So I just commend you for that. And as far as what we've been doing recently, I'll let the ladies chime in on it. But one of the things that we've been doing over the last 24 hours is getting signatures from parents who are willing and committed to challenging the school system on the failure to educate their children. And I can tell you that we haven't found one parent that has been an objection to signing the petition. Every parent that we've spoken to over the last 48 to 28 hours wants to sign the petition and feels that the system has done a poor job at educating their children. So I'll pass it on to Yolanda, who will kind of about that initiative.
Yeah, we actually just left an event where in Cherry Hill, back to school event, and that's exactly what happened. It was amazing how many people was willing to sign on and didn't even look at the news to see what we had going on. They was willing to sign on because they was done dirty in the system. Their parents was done dirty, and now they're doing the children dirty. So, Shannon, you would have been proud of us today out there like that. Yes, we did. We did it for you. We did it. We pulled it together. And as far as the protest on last week, we didn't have many people out there, but we expected that because of the weather. But that did not stop the message. The message is that you're gonna stop creating educational homicide for our children. You're gonna stop collecting all this money per student and not doing your job. Your job is to educate our children, return them into a safe environment, and give them services that what's her name, Ms. Rhonda? That like her services needs to be in every school. It needs to be wraparound services like that to heal the community in every school. And we're not asking for a lot. We're asking them to do exactly what that school is doing. So I commend you on the hard work that you're doing, and I commend you on your wraparound services and giving it to the parents.
Well, thank you. And that's not only my school, but I will say Family League of Baltimore has been the lead over the past 20, 30 years in community schools. And the community school initiative is just that. You guys know there's no longer any zone schools, and in certain schools in the city, you have to test to have certain scores to get into. But then what happens to those other schools? And if I'm hearing you guys correctly, I think that's more of your fight. But over the past couple of years, we have been a part of that community school initiative underneath of the Family League of Baltimore. The city of Baltimore have just recently gotten to the community school initiative during the pandemic. So there were quite a few schools in the fall of 2020, the virtual world, that became community schools. So without putting anything out there, I will say that they should have collaborated with Family League since they've been doing it so long and they understand the work. They understand the importance of community schools initiatives. So I would say there needs to be more collaboration of the powers that be. And if there's no need to reinvent the wheel if it's been working for the past 30 years underneath of Family League. But without even going anywhere about that, there are other community schools that do exist. There are quite a few schools that will be having their ribbon cutting ceremony or already have, because they are opening up their new 21st century buildings. And inside this building, Mr. Jason, I heard you or Miss Yolanda say about robbing our kids of education. So in these 21st century buildings, everything is technical. Every classroom has a smart board. There's speakers in the classroom. There are microphones that the teachers can use. The building supposed to be Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. It's laid out really, really nice and accessible. The issue that my concern, I should say, is I think one of you alluded to the fact of the government money that has come to help more is what we need to see the level of accountability and integrity with, to make sure that it's trickling down to the schools. I'll just give you a prime example. If you guys ride past our new building, like I said, we moved in August of 19. We were housed in the old Lake Clifton building. We're in the junior high building of Lake Clifton on the corner of 25th and Harford Road. That used to be a middle school. So imagine putting a high school with these CTE programs into a middle school building. So can you imagine a football player, a basketball player, and a freshman walking down a middle school narrow hallway? But nevertheless, we can't say anything about the structure of the building, but we're relatively baby school to the high schools in the city compared to Mervo City. Reach Partnership started back in 2008. Our biggest class, our first graduating class was a class of 2012. Our student population hasn't been no more than 547, maybe 610. And now is as of yesterday, 815 kids. Where are we putting these kids? We're kind of spread thin with, and we're not even going to get into some of the conversation Lady J last night about protecting our kids as we're going back in person. But in addition to offering all of these resources to the parents, I will say parents need to, when they get to high school, they drop off. And I'm learning it's the same in middle school. Parents are not as engaged in the middle school and definitely not in the high school level anymore. So if the parents wants to see this change, they have to speak up. They have to be more engaged and involved so that these changes can take place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, if we could just replicate what your program or your association of programs and schools is doing, that would be great. But if I heard you correctly, you're able to serve 800 and change students, correct?
Well, this will be our first year serving that many.
We need to multiply you with a couple zeros. We've got 81,000 students registered in Baltimore City. And unfortunately, most of them do not have the opportunity to get into a program that is as youth, family, and community centered and driven as yours. And those children and those families, you know, my own family, my grandparents were sharecroppers. They didn't believe in education. They didn't raise their kids to believe in education because they said, you black, you're going to be black. There's only but so far you're going to go. My mother understood that education made the difference from where she was to where she wanted to be. But that was 2 generations ago. So if in Baltimore, we've had broken systems for decades, that means we've got generations teaching generations that nobody taught them. Mm-hmm. So we got a big problem. And from what I'm understanding, we got a little space that's actually equipped to handle that problem. And that's kind of the frustration that we're seeing and hearing from parents, is that it's not that every school is broken, but too many are broken for all the students that we have in the city. Even with programs like yours that are serving more students than they ever have, the fact that graduation rates are declining, that SAT scores are declining, that 41% of the students have a 1.0 or lower GPA. What happens to all of them? And that's really my concern. If we could take you and multiply what you're doing, that would be awesome.
Can I ask her a question? You said
Sure.
a 21st century school, so this is the school that has been done over, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, a lot of the schools. I mean, it's just a few schools that's been done over. My son went to Calvin Rodwell that they done over, and now he goes to Forest Park, which they done over, which he has that opportunity. Now, my concern is it's not about my son and what school he goes to. It's about the ones that surround the schools that he go to that does not get that opportunity, that does not have the 21st century schooling, and they're failing to do right by them. Okay, it was selected schools, and I don't think the next building of the next school is going to be until 2028 or whatever the case may be. What do we do with these generations right here is my concern. I love what your program is doing, but if they had done worrying about how it's going to cut the administration costs, then we would be put in a better position. They're thinking about, okay, the parents who don't know what to do, who don't know who to go to, like who don't know what to fight for, because we run into a lot of parents that say, well, I don't know who to talk to, I don't know who to go to, because the same system that failed the children is the same system that failed the parent up to the grandparent. This is the third generation of failure, and it's not fair that we get these schools that our children can go to and leave everybody else behind, is what I'm saying.
So I have a couple of comments. One back to Pastor Wright. I'll say this. Reach is not one of the schools that you have to have a certain composite score to get into. You guys know there's no longer any zone schools. So those schools like Pulley, City, Merville, you have to have a certain composite score to get into those schools. Not Reach, not Reginald F. Lewis, not Frederick Douglass, not ACE, not Patterson. We're the left of the what we would call the zone schools. You know what I mean? So we are the ones who get all those other students. And at Reach Partnership, honestly, our ninth graders come into us reading at a second and third grade level. And so it's a struggle for our ninth grade teachers to try to teach them a ninth grade curriculum where we have to teach them the basics. But I will say, because of the level of commitment our teachers have, our graduation rates have increased. We do a lot of rigorous after school academics to support these kids with coach class, in addition to their regular classes throughout the week. And that's not to take away from any of the other high schools that do it as well. I'm just saying, coming into a high school level, we already are dealing with a deficit.
And can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question? Lady J, first of all, I want to apologize, Dr. Lady J, because first of all, this is your show. And
no.
We have so many questions for Ms. Rhonda because we find it interesting that there is this amazing program that is helping our community, and this is not widespread through the city. So, my question is so are you saying that majority of the children that you get at the ninth grade level are coming in already failed from the school system? I just want to kind of get that clarity. They're already failing, and you have to pick up the pieces of them failing from the Baltimore City school system. Am I correct?
Yes. And that's not just my school. That's a lot of the high schools. And coming into high school, they are already at a deficit. And so now we're left with the task of, like Pastor Wright mentioned, having to make sure that our graduation rates doesn't drop, that these kids are graduating not only with the level of education that they deserve and well need, but also to be successful in that next, whatever, if that next is college, if the next is a trade school, if that next is the military, whatever that is. And so it's a poor frog that don't praise his own pond. I've been at Reach since 2010, and I can honestly tell you that our staff have done a phenomenal job working hard and making sure these kids are learning, making sure that their test scores are going up, not teaching to no test. I'm talking teaching the hardcore curriculum, making sure they understand what an essay is, or they understand how to put an essay together and things of that nature. So it's not just elementary, middle level, but it's high school as well. And so I
That's
hear what you
awesome.
guys are saying about the generation and everything, but I have to go back to saying that now parents have to, their voice matters. Like we teach our kids, your voice matters. If you have an issue with one of your teachers, let's have a SEL moment, one of our social emotional learning, social emotional activities, and let's talk about it. Let's figure out what we can do so you can get re-engaged back into that classroom. And you know what I'm saying? So parents have to speak up, share what they want, because I'll be quite honest with you. Reach per se has this stigma because we were in the Lake Clifton building. Oh, don't go to that school. Oh, that's a bad school. Oh, they do this. Oh, they do that. Reach is Baltimore's best kept secret, I would say. And we're at the point where we're being recognized by the state for how we have been able to increase our scores, how we have been able to keep our graduation rates at a certain level and increasing, how our reading and math scores are going up. And looking at this year alone, everyone knows this virtual world was a struggle for everybody, especially our children. So now we're coming back to school, and yes, quite across the board, we have quite a few ninth graders that failed last year. So now you're looking at incoming freshmen with the freshmen that failed, and now we got to get them back on point. So I will say we've been working hard. We're ready to meet the challenge and do what we have to do. I'm sure at the other community schools, they're working just as hard. The needs of a community school for a high school level is totally different than the needs of those for the elementary, middle school kids. I'm sure you guys could really see that, and I don't want to leave them out either. And I think Miss Yolanda, she mentioned about Calvin Rodwell and Forest Park. I do know that Walter P. Carter, they're going into their new building this year. Harford Heights is going into their new building. I believe Lake Montebello, they are under construction right now. Patterson will be going into their new building. So there's quite a few new 21st century schools that's popping up. All of them are not brand new from the ground up. Some of them, like mine, have been a building that's been gutted out and has been totally done over, and there are some schools that are spaced out. That's above my pay grade. I don't have anything to do with the stadium authority and those who do the 21st century planning on who's next on the block to get one. But before getting a 21st century school, I will say I am glad to see that the city did buy into the community school initiative and making sure that now community schools are the focus of the city and making sure that the community is involved with some of the decisions that's going on. The community has a voice on their surveys coming into the schools, volunteering in the community schools, taking part of initiative on the PTSO or PTSA. So all those things are available to parents. But again, I gotta say it. I've been in the high school field for quite some time, and that's a struggle. You may get one or two, or I was happy. My first PTSO meeting in 2011, I had one parent. I was excited.
Wow.
Parent in 2011. I take the one over the zero that showed up in the years before. You see what I'm saying? But now, it's my prayer and my desire that parents take their son and daughter's education more seriously, that they realize that, hey, I just can't drop them off in high school like the phone calls I have received. Oh, he's 18, he's yours. What you want me to do? Ma'am, that's your son, that's your daughter. So these are the comments that I hear from parents. Well, what you want me to do, Miss McKinney? I really want to say, and I know we're on live, but I want you to be a parent.
Well, that would be a first start.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, it's two questions.
Sure.
Okay, so why couldn't they put it in every school, even regardless of whether it was a 21st school or not? And two, do you feel like pushing them back in school right now is safe?
Your community-based learning center. Why couldn't that be duplicated at every school, regardless whether or not they had the amenities of a new facility or not? Why couldn't that program be duplicated?
That service model.
And my question to add to that would be, is you said that the city supports you, but does the school system support you and your initiative?
When I
Yeah.
say city, I'm clarifying. I am going to answer your question. When I say city, I am referring to the school system. I don't mean Baltimore City itself. I mean, when I say city, I'm referring to North Avenue, our headquarters. Um, to answer your question, again, honestly, that's above my pay grade. I don't know why the initiative has not been in all schools. I do know that in 2020, Baltimore City Public Schools changed the concept to have, I think it was 43 or 73 of their schools become community schools. So the community school initiative is kind of new to the city school system itself. Now, like I said, Family League has been doing it for quite some time, and there have been quite a few schools underneath the Family League, so operating as a community school. So why the split? I don't know. I don't know if it has something to do with funding. I don't know if it has something to do with what is a community school and why should we do it. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. Can't answer that one. But I can say that a lot of the schools now are community schools.
How
And
about the safety?
the safety, I can give you my personal opinion. When you think about going back into the building and we see this Delta variant rising, I am all for everyone wearing a mask. I am. And just like I explained last night to the young gentleman that's running for governor, who is totally against mask wearing, I'm just being honest and transparent. We don't know where these kids been for a year and a half, who they've been around. We don't know if they're going home to take care of a sickly parent or a grandparent or have any type of underlying conditions. Why expose them? And then look, everyone's talking about the kids, the kids, the kids. But what about the teachers? What about the administrators? What about the librarians, the cafeteria workers? We need to protect ourselves because we have to go home to our families as well. So if wearing a mask is one of the things that the CDC is saying to help us to keep us safe, then just let us wear the mask.
Well, see, that's my thing. But it's not just wearing the mask; it's the social distancing that goes with it. It's also the hand washing that goes with it, and they're pushing these children back into the belly of the beast. And
that we're in the
I will say that every school has been given prior to when we opened back up back in March. Everyone was given the directions to be sitting 6 feet apart, and everyone had to wear a mask. And now that we're going back totally full in person, yes, the children have to wear a mask. Yes, again, I can only speak about Reach. And I do know some of the other community schools that I partner with are doing the same thing, making sure that every classroom has hand sanitizer. These are things that parents can do. They can donate these things: hand sanitizer, mask, soap.
But are you in favor? Are you in favor of going back to in-person learning? Because the parents that we've spoken to over the last few days, majority of them, a matter of fact, we haven't found one person. There was one person this evening. We found a white lady who was in objection, who wanted in-person learning, but she only wanted in-person learning because she needed some place to put her children during the daytime while she goes to work. Wow. But technically, she objected to it because she felt that the children were going to be put at risk. But the majority of the parents that we've spoken to all want virtual learning, and they really don't want to put their children in the belly of the beast at this time, especially when we see 6,000 cases in Florida where the first week of school opened up. You have a county in the state of Maryland that just declared a state of emergency because you have over 360+% COVID increase due to the Delta variant. So we're saying that really and truly, why are we so in a rush to put these children at risk, knowing that in some cases the medical system can be challenged by this? We have right now emergency rooms that are filling up. We have people that have to wait in order to be seen because unfortunately the hospital system is overwhelmed due to COVID. This is recently that people have reported that to us. So for us, it's a concern for us going back to in-person learning. And what we really recommend instead is kind of using a piece of what you're doing with community centered based institutions, but putting them out into the churches, the community centers, the rec centers, or maybe other organizations that may have the space to hold smaller learning centers continue with the virtual learning for one more year, keep building on that, but have these community learning hubs where children can go to for parents that are not staying at home. Give them an option to send them someplace that's more controlled than 800 students walking through an institution that may have some questionable practices as far as keeping things sanitary, keeping things COVID free. There's going to be issues, and we're saying, why not do it in a more controlled environment as opposed to sending them to the larger institutions? But most parents are against it.
Yeah, but
so what I can say to that is, as far as let me make a comment in reference to my opinion about going back to school in person. It has been a struggle for kids learning virtually, and the learning curve has really dropped. And not only that, we talk about the social emotional concept as piece of it as well. So for that reason, I totally understand going back in person. The virtual world presented some challenges. And this is my argument here. Where is Verizon? Where is Xfinity? How come they can't step up their game and offer a broadband to make sure that Wi-Fi signals are not dropping constantly? What are we going to do in reference to people hacking into teachers' classrooms? So the virtual world presents some concerns that maybe not be common knowledge to everyone who's not in the educational world. It did have its share of issues. Coming back in person, I definitely, and then also from the kids' perspective and talking to plenty of my students, dealing with depression, dealing with suicidal thoughts, dealing with isolation, being in a house all day long, not having someone else to talk to, or you're in the house and you got 4 or 5 other siblings and everyone is trying to log on to their device or don't have a device to log on to. They got to wait for somebody else to get off. And then again, it goes back to not having Wi-Fi in the home. And so it presents a whole plethora of issues that sometimes are out of our control. As far as the learning centers, we did that in the beginning back in March when we started going back into school. There were learning centers. I know Rita Church was a learning center. And the director there did a phenomenal job with making sure that the kids were logging on, engaged in their classes and everything of that nature, making sure the kids were safe with masks, hand sanitizer, washing their hands, making their own personal PPE kits and things of that nature. But that also can be challenging too when you are in, let's say, the bottom of a church in a fellowship hall, and you got multiple grades in there, and you have people that are there that are not educators. They're basically like babysitters, just making sure the kid is on and everything, taking the kids to lunch, making sure they go to the bathroom and things of that nature. So that it was a well thought out plan. It worked. But if a kid needs help with algebra 1 or with geometry, and the person that's there that's working that room is not an educator in that area, they're not that much of an assistant. So it may sound like I'm being double standard, but I'm not. I see the pros and I see the cons of going back in person. Definitely when it comes to dealing with the variant. Don't get me wrong. I definitely agree with that.
And we have children that can't be inoculated. You have children under 12 that can't get the shots. And there's a question that was brought up by one of our community members, Christopher Irving, who asked the question to the school system: how many teachers have chosen not to get vaccinated? Because there are the anti-vaxxers. How many parents have decided not to get their children vaccinated? We met many parents tonight that are anti-vaxxers and are refusing to give the vaccination to their children. The only reason why one parent took it, they said, was because their job forced them to take it. So unless their employer is forcing them to take it, in many cases, we're going to have a school system that has some people who are vaccinated, some who are not vaccinated. We're asking as well whether or not the staff maybe, the maintenance and the people that are working there in the school, the cafeteria workers and all the other support workers, what are their status as far as the vaccination is concerned? So I think that we're really setting ourselves up for a disastrous, condition for our children when there's so many unknowns. There's
Yeah, my concern is it worth sending the children back, even though they had challenges? That's the problem for me. Even though the children had challenges and this, that, and the third, it's not at the point where we should be making them acceptable to riding a bus with people who got COVID that has to go to the hospital because they don't have a car. With people who their parents was around and then they bring it into the school and then it goes back and out into another community. See, it's a lot of things that I understand the importance of going in school, but if it's not safe, it's not safe. Well, they should have hired a whole bunch of tutors to go into community hubs and protect these children and keep it at a containment. It's not going to be a good look. Just like we said earlier, we would rather be wrong than be sorry. We done buried too many already, and we're going to start burying children with this variant that's here and the new one that's coming up for the South, all because people having challenges. No, ma'am. No, we cannot do that. Or because, somebody's having emotional issues. We can get that part fixed because we can also get them therapists to fix that piece. But if they get sick and they go in ventilations and all kind of stuff, what are we supposed to do then? There is no help for that.
So, and again, only thing I can say to you guys is some of your comments are above my pay grade. I will say that. So, I hear your passion about your point, which is very valid. And I can say that quite a few teachers feel the same way. I do think that the district needs to be a little bit more transparent in what their plan is. I do know, I will say this. I know the BTU, the Baltimore Teachers Union, has sent out a survey for teachers asking them about their opinion about who's been vaccinated and what different levels, meaning all the way down to the point if you're not vaccinated, you lose your job, up to the point where the lowest factor was something like just mentioning you vaccinated or you're going to be subject to being tested every week or something like that. So let me just say the measures of safety that I do know that has been put in place. One, every school has testing coordinators. I don't know how many based on the student population. So students will be tested every week. Yes, some schools do, some schools don't have air filtration systems to circulate the air in their buildings. 3, everyone is required to wear a mask. Unfortunately, some of the staff, we had to do it ourselves because of funding, but this is again where we get community support. These partners that we have built, supplying with hand sanitizer, with masks, with wipes, so teachers can wipe down desks and things of that nature. We can do as much as we possibly can to ensure the safety of everyone. I'm not saying that it's 100% proof, but I am saying that we are doing our due diligence because, again, just as you all are concerned about the children, the teachers are concerned about themselves as well because they have to help their families.
It would have been, hindsight is 20/20 and all. But I think one of the things that disappoints me the most is this time of COVID was an opportunity for the school system to hit that reset button. When the buildings were not at capacity, when folks were still trying to figure out what to do, but seeing that COVID is here, it's still here and it's not going anywhere yet. This would have been that perfect opportunity to hit that reset button, get it so that the buildings had, running water, see what the issue really was with the HVAC in the different buildings and get those things handled. And the fact that has not been done across the entire district, to me, is negligence.
Yeah.
You're willingly putting children in a precarious situation. Like I said to people, if you take your car to the shop because something's not working and you pay the bill, you expect them to then tell you, well, you're like 50% okay. It would be unacceptable. But for some reason, when it comes to education in Baltimore City, these things seem to be acceptable. And for me, it's not acceptable ever. Angela Davis had a quote about, well, yes, ma'am. We got
And
to
that's
stop
not what
accepting
we
what folk
heard
give
that
us.
was going on.
No, they were even saying that, this is what we hope to do, but in the places where this isn't what we can do, this is what we're going to try to do. It's unacceptable. Um, Unfortunately for me, I'm sorry, I hate to leave you guys a little bit early, but
Yeah, but
I just I just ask everybody that's watching and listening to stay in prayer for the district, for these children, the parents, for the ability to exercise discernment to know for you as an individual parent, is it the place for your child, and make that appropriate decision without fear of repercussion from a failing district. That's my word.
Thank you, Pastor Shannon. Enjoy your
Y'all,
family time.
thank you, ma'am. Y'all all stay blessed and safe.
Thank you. You too.
my well, my concern is
You're breaking up.
Yolanda, you're breaking up. We can't hear you.
on the same school.
Yolanda,
Yes, hold on.
you're breaking up. We couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, my concern is that we was on the same school board meeting, and what you just laid out is not what they told us was the safety protocol that they was going to return to school. They told us that they was going to be switching classrooms. There was no protection on the desk because it was no money in the budget to get them. Then they told us that uh, children they're not doing testing, they're not doing temperature checks, they're not doing any of that because it
So
was
what
not in the
they're
budget.
not doing the temperature checks. I can tell you
They're
that.
not.
I
So
know,
they
I
told
know
us,
that
I
they're
don't.
not doing that, but and they don't have enough shields for all the desks either. I know that's why we want the kids to wear the mask to school. I do
With a
know that.
$1.18 billion budget, why
Mhm.
wouldn't that be the first thing they
Mm-hmm.
decided to do? See, that's
Mhm.
what I'm saying with the negligence of of the people that we're calling for their resignation. That was pure negligence for them not to say, oh well, it's not in the budget, maybe we'll just figure it out. What is it's something clearly wrong with this picture if you're telling us that you would not take a pay rate, you will not send your child to Baltimore City schools, but it's okay for us to send them in there with a $1.18 billion budget, and you can't even supply the necessary things that children need. That is sick to me. That is beyond reprehensible, if you ask me, because you're sending these children in, and sooner or later, it's not, the question is not going to be, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over again, who's going to get it. It's going to be when they're going to get it, and they're going to transport it back to communities. This is a concern that we have, and it should not, the thing is, they should have worried about safety first and not the money. But now it's about the money and not about the safety.
But
Now,
unfortunately, it's been that way for quite some time. And again, that's above my pay grade. I can't speak about that. We even when it came back to opening back schools back in early March, and we were transitioning back in, and kids had to register to come in. You all know that wasn't no secret. The governor said that he was going to withhold funding from every jurisdiction unless they got the kids back in school. And so what each Baltimore County, Arundel County, Howard County, Harford County, where everybody was doing was scrambling, figuring out a way how to get the kids back in school because they needed that funding for their district. So unfortunately, it boils down to money. Um, I do believe that there needs to be a little bit more, not a little bit, a whole lot more transparency and accountability when it comes to those government fundings and how it's being trickled down throughout the school system to make sure schools are getting what they need. I do it. That's my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with my position. Me personally, I think there should be an outside source that the money should go to, and that outside source should funnel the money because there's been a lack of faith and trust in the system that has already been in place for so long. And so maybe that is something that we should rally behind and support in getting another firm to be simply over that type of funding when it comes to into the system. That's just my personal 2 cents opinion. but I understand your concern. I hear your passion about it. And from the educator standpoint, we are just as concerned.
We're
Um,
looking at it from a parent's perspective. There's
mhm,
no amount of money that you can give to a parent to
mhm,
explain the death of their child. There's
mhm,
no amount of money that you can give to make up for a child's loss, for a child's life being lost due to negligence and just not ruling on the side of caution. We think that we're just moving a little bit too fast. We understand all the dynamics in reference to the children and depression. We have folks that we've worked with in the community whose children were directly related to suicidal issues within the last school year. So
mhm,
we understand this firsthand. We understand what our children are going through, but we're saying that that's where the resources should be spent at. That's where you start thinking outside of the box. That's where you do things like, for instance, both Pastor Dwayne Simmons as well as Pastor Alvin Hathaway have been trying to communicate to the city about these community learning hubs. They're already doing it over on the east side. Reverend Pastor Nunez, with a non-denominational bilingual church, has about 40 students in their facility right now, and they're giving parents an option to not send their children to the classrooms. I think that if we work smart and utilize some of this federal stimulus COVID money that's coming in, that we can do this safely, and we can do it with virtual learning, with a combination of virtual learning for those parents that want that option. We should give them that option. I'm telling you that what we've saw over the last several days, gathering signatures from families, we found parents that said, I'm not sending my child to school and I will just face the consequences, either whether it's court action, whether I'm taken to jail. And they're doing that, by the way, because we've also attended this week the courts this week, and they are filing truancy against single Black female mothers who were
Wow.
essential workers. They were essential workers. They had no other choice but to go to work. In many cases, their children became latchkey kids, and unfortunately, their children may not have engaged the way that they were supposed to in reference to virtual learning. And they're now penalizing those parents for their children missing time and not logging in. This is absurd. We should be looking at trying to support these single Black mothers, not penalizing them, not raking them through the criminal justice system. There should be a way to support them. And we've been crying out ever since last year. Before we went to the new school year for 2020, we told them last year that we had an option, and it was these community learning hubs. And this idea that there may not be people to help with these community learning hubs with teachers, with teaching, is not true. What we found was that in many of these churches, we have elders that were educators. We have elders that have degrees, master's degrees, doctorate degrees. They're in engineering. They're in all kinds of STEM related fields, and they're willing to step up. But nobody never asked them to help. That's the whole thing. This is why we have a problem with our CEO. A CEO should look at what's happening in reference to the dynamics and be willing to think outside of the box and bring in partners, bring in community members, bring in those that can help to facilitate solutions. And that's not what's happening here. And what's happening instead is the parents are being forced to make a decision, put their children in harm's way or keep their children at home and risk being criminally charged in the process. We should never be putting parents in that option to
you're
decide
absolutely
whether
right.
death or criminal charges.
Well, this year I do know that parents did have an option. They had a choice to put their schools back, to put their children into back in person learning, or they could have opted out and chose virtual school. So the
That's not
city
true.
did. Yeah,
That's not
yes,
100%
they did. They do
true.
have it. They did have an
They
option.
had an open list for 2,000 students. We've investigated it.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, we have family members that tried to get on the list. What we found out from parents was some parents didn't know about the list. Some parents weren't properly notified, whether
Mhm.
they did send something in the mail, but we know what's currently going on with the mail system. and the delays in mail. So many parents got the information after the fact. And when they called the number to register their children for virtual learning, they were told it was closed. There was only 2,000 people that were submitted on the list, and then the list is still going to be purged because it's based on eligibility. We were told that if your child did poorly during virtual learning last year and missed time because of virtual learning last year, that they would not qualify for virtual learning. So you have parents, and what we've been doing, our organization has been referring them to the ombudsman's office in Annapolis to get in contact with them to try to get the list reopened so that these parents can have the option of virtual learning. But I can tell you that they did a poor job in notifying parents. The list was expired, and they're not trying to allow these parents that still want virtual learning to get on that list. So that system itself was broken. Last year, they did a survey, and last year they asked the parents what they wanted. The majority ruled, and everybody decided they wanted virtual learning. The majority, a strong majority, decided they wanted virtual learning. This year, because of funding, because they want to get in-person learning to be able to get the funding, they didn't give parents that choice because they already knew what the majority of these parents would have said. The majority of these parents would have said, I'm not sending my children into harm's way. I'm not
Let
doing
me ask you a question, because this is interesting to me that you're referring to these parents. Can I just ask what area in the city, and have you guys just been looking at elementary, middle school, high school, a combination of both?
No, it's a
Have you been east side, west side, Cherry Hill, like where?
It's been all through the city.
I'm only asking because it has been very in what I do, and part of my duty and responsibility is being over our PTSO. And like I shared with you before, it's like pulling teeth to get parents to attend. It's like pulling teeth to get parents to fill out a survey. And so I hear what you're saying, what the parents want, and I know I can speak for my school and for 3 other high schools as well, and 2 elementary middle schools right in my vicinity. It's hard getting parents to be engaged.
I used to be a PTA president, so I get it.
Yes, it's hard. And even in this virtual world, it's been even harder. So I understand, the voice of the parent and what the majority of them are sharing with you all their concerns about the virtual school, about everything for their child. But when I reach out to parents weekly, I send emails weekly. I even had parents tell me stop emailing them. So I'm finding this difficult. It's not difficult for me to understand and believe what you guys are saying. It's just blowing my mind to hear you guys advocate so much for parents when I know the work that I have done and other community school coordinators have done to get their parents involved. And it's like I said, if you see 3 or 4, you're excited.
Well, see, the difference is that you work for the school system and we don't. So you would get a different response than what
not necessarily, because I believe it's all about relationships. So if you have good
we don't have a relationship.
Parents, if you are there from day one with their parents, because again, like I said, I've been doing this for a while, like I'm sure you guys have been as well. It comes with building relationships, and it also comes with the parents' mindset to me.
But see, the thing is, we don't have a relationship with them, and we don't work in a school system, so we get a total different response than we don't have to contact parents on a regular basis. So when they tell us, and then you have to realize the majority of these people actually thought that they was going to be put back in virtual learning automatically. So I mean, and then you're talking about a school with the 21st century. We're talking about the ones that you want them to understand. But the system also failed them too. There was, because their parents didn't go to PTA meetings, and they don't go to PTA meetings because their parents don't vote. They don't vote. So it's a whole bunch of engrossment of negligence of a teaching society. And
so I don't know if it's so much of that in addition to educating parents. So now that you have their ear, why not let us help them by educating them on what you can do, what your rights are as a parent, how you can get involved, not to be afraid to speak up. You know, I heard you both mention about the generational curse, as I will call it, because their parents didn't was shammed and they were shammed or whatever. So why not let us take this moment? And I'm not saying what you're not doing is awesome. It really is. But let's educate these parents and say, this is what you can do. This is what you should do. Let me teach you about this. Let me teach you about that. So that when they speak, they are speaking with understanding and with knowledge. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So,
See, you're the first one that actually said that. So we can say, hey, we did it. There was no that was never. We didn't reached out to Baltimore City schools and they totally ignored us. We done reached out to what we got better response with the governor's office and everybody else, and then we got from our Baltimore City leadership and the Board of Education. So if we knew who we could go to have these people to actually have the conversation with to help them understand, then we would have done it. But we can't send them to a system that's ignoring them because they didn't reached out to the Board of Education. They didn't reached out to North Avenue. They didn't reached out to the state, and they still hasn't gotten anywhere. I know because I haven't gotten anywhere. So if you say, well, I'm willing to help you guys, this, that, and the third, then we can partner with you so we can help these people get a better understanding. If you get what I'm saying.
I do.
That option was not put on the table for these parents, and excuse my language, it sure wasn't put on the table for us.
I got you. I do. What I would like to do and offer my help if you guys would welcome me, and that is to let's have a parent meeting where we can, before we rally the troops and to get them to go ahead and try to impeach or kick out or whatever, let's educate them on the processes. And I understand what you're saying. They call on North Avenue and they call on the state and they're not getting anywhere. But when they go down to do their protests or whatever, that they're protesting based on facts and not out of emotions. Not saying that they are. I'm not saying that they are, but I am saying, because again, I have to go back to this. It's baffling my mind, the number of parents, and I'm not reaching out to them to say, oh, your child is in trouble, whatever. I'm inviting them based on surveys I put out there and what few parents did respond. I'm inviting them to come to our PTSO meetings or come to our parent power sessions where we are sharing information about IEPs 504, about virtual school, about safety, about all these things, and they don't come. But yet they'll go and say one thing to an organization such as you guys, but when we are making ourselves available for them to come in, to bring their questions, to hear, they won't show up. So it's kind of like, it's baffling me. That's all I can say. It's baffling me.
Well, like I said, we can mediate between the two, and we can actually send the people to you. The ones that we get, they understand the broken system. They understand, and these are parents that actually involved in PTA meetings, and they go to their school and they advocate for their child. These are the ones that's being ignored. We just had to get a young lady a tutor because her mother, she's in the 12th grade and she can't count. She don't want to go to the store for her mother with a $20 bill because she always brings her back the wrong change. So she been fighting and advocating for her child since she was in the kindergarten, and she asked them. She failed her child. She made them fail her child in the kindergarten. And now she's in the 12th grade. And they told her, well, don't worry about it. We'll just send her through doors. What? Where does this even make sense at? You're sending a child out into the world who cannot count, who cannot do basic math. So she will not be able to pay her bills or know if someone's giving her the correct money that she's supposed to get paid. And like I said, she done been to every IEP meeting. She done been to every PTA meeting, and she's still been ignored. So you have those parents out here that do advocate for their children. And you have those ones that's been told, and she asked them, please do not take my child out of school until she learns. They told her we will put her in the doors program so she can get a job. Wow.
Mm.
Wow. That never ceases to amaze me that we're willing to do this. And see, our educational system, that's why we're calling for her resignation, because we don't know whether we want to pass the child, fail the child, send the mother to jail, do what we supposed to do, cover our own butts. It's a mess. It's a mess. And just like he said, if we're thinking of the things of best practices, if you knew that you had parents out here that don't understand something, you should have sent somebody to knock on their door. Hey, I need to talk to you. We need to have a conversation about your child's education. We need to have a conversation about your child, about their attendance. All you had to, don't send a letter, because 9 times out of 10, what if they can't read the letter? If they send it in an email, who knows if they have Wi-Fi? It's a lot of challenges that comes up that we run into, that we try to navigate through the situation, and it's a challenge for us to try to connect them to to an institution that's not willing to work with us, that's not willing to help, that's not willing to talk to the parent. And that's why we're calling for a resignation. If the Baltimore Teachers Union voted for no confident, then the parents should vote no confident. That's all I'm saying. It has nothing. We're not blaming the educators. Y'all do the best that y'all could do to the best of your ability with the little resources that y'all have. Y'all are not the problem. It's the top, the heavy top administration that does nothing. They get paid a lot of money, and it's not at the end of the day, it's not worth it at all.
Well, I wanted to read a couple of these comments. We had a comment from Keith Scott. He said that if the government cares about our children, every child would be graduating with the proper education. And we have David Anthony Wiggins, who said, boycott BCPS, stop sending your children to poison factories, disenroll your children, and there are no criminal charges that can be filed. He says, nothing has changed since Vicky Harding uncovered the test score cheating scandal. And David also says that teachers don't want, I'm sorry, let me put this up here. Teachers don't want a boycott because they're worried about their paychecks. They have to eat too. And that was from David Anthony Wiggins. Guys, I have to thank you so much for coming on. We ran over time a little bit. This is so interesting, and I'm glad I was able to just kind of sit back, because I stopped teaching in 2014, so I feel like I'm kind of out of the loop when it comes to teaching, and that's why I really wanted to get Rhonda on here, because she's right in the thick of everything that's going on. So Rhonda, thank you for coming on. Thank you for all of the hard work that you are putting in with your school, with your children, school children. I've seen you on other shows, and I know that you are just like totally dedicated to your job. So thank you so much, and for answering the questions that were put out to you tonight. Thank you to Jason Rodriguez for coming on. Thank you to Yolanda for and Pastor Shannon has a family member that came in from out of town, so she had to leave. But I wanted to thank the three of you, because you all are out there on the front lines really fighting for the children to have what they need. And so thank you so much for doing that, because you could be doing anything else. So thank you for being out there on the front lines. Hopefully we can continue this conversation at another time, because I have a feeling, my personal opinion about all of this is that I think the schools won't be open that long. So we're going to be coming back, having this conversation again about why did we open the schools anyway, and expose the children, the teachers, the administrators, and all these people to only come back and do virtual learning. We already know what's coming. We already know the Delta variant is out there. So I just want to say to you, Rhonda, as you go into the classroom, be safe. Parents, make sure that your children are safe. Put the mask on them. Do what you can do to make sure that everybody stays safe, because, we focus on the children, but like you said, we got to focus on the people that are teaching them as well. And we don't know where anybody has been. So we got to be really mindful of that, make sure that everybody is kept safe. I hope that we get to a point before I leave this earth where we're not having this conversation anymore about our school system. My son is 25. And this was going on when I was getting ready to put him in school. He's graduated from college and everything. And we're still having the same conversation about the school system. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know when it's going to change. Like Pastor Shannon said, we had this whole year, like a whole year to make changes. I don't understand what in the heck was going on. And now we're here at this point and we're still having the same discussion. You know, it's just like, I wonder sometimes, do they really want to change? Is anybody looking at it? Or you just going to
We
work
got to be able to relate to our children. I vote for somebody like Rhonda for CEO of the school system because she gets it. She gets it. The problem is we have too many administrators that don't understand our community and understand our children. They don't understand our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I think, Jason, I think you hit it on the head right there, that they don't, and they don't care. That's the other thing. They don't care. And so, you know, when you have a system, like the system is just broken. Clearly, it's broken. Hopefully someone will come in there and fix it. So I don't.
It's going to take all of us, Lady J, to fix it.
It does.
Parents, the community members, partners, businesses, politicians. It's going to take all of us to fix it. It would be crazy for us to try to put this weight on one person's shoulder and ask them to be God and fix it. All of us come with various gifts and talents and experiences, and when we put them all together, it can work together. So if we can,
but everybody don't get paid $340,000. That's the issue.
I get it. I get it.
That responsibility, she chose to pick up that torch.
Right.
No one forced it to her. She knew what she was getting into because she was already a part of Alonzo's administration. She already knew it.
What's absurd is she's the highest paid, really and truly, in some cases, in the nation when it comes to educators.
In the nation.
She makes $20,000 more than the superintendent in New York State makes, and they're dealing with over 1 million children. She only has 79,000, 8,000 students and is the highest paid, and we have some of the worst academic achievements in the country. It's crazy. It's absurd. It doesn't add up.
Yeah, we can work together all we want, but the thing is that we should not be lifting the weight of the person who gets paid $340,000. We should not be picking up the tab for children. You should not be picking up the tabs for children because they refuse to give the students and the teachers the funding because it goes to the administration first. And that is absurd.
Don't just take it from me. I keep saying this quote over and over again. Billy Murphy Esquire, the distinguished attorney, was on a radio program just recently and just identified that for years, systematically, the school system has not brought the education to where the children are. They have not. They know the children are dealing with lead. They know the children are dealing with trauma. They know that some cases the first meal of the day is in the school. You, Rhonda, have identified with that community learning the wraparound services that are needed to create a successful environment for those students. And this is something that Billy Murphy said for far too long, for decades, for generations, has unfortunately been the case coming out of North Avenue. They have not catered the education to the environment from which these students are coming out of.
And David, I wanted to read these comments before we go. David says, Shannon Wright has no history here, so she can't address the historical problem. Keith says the system is not broken. It just doesn't work for you because it was not created for you. And David says we have too many political opportunists in Baltimore that have no clue how to use the administrative remedy process. And he says Alonzo was given $100,000 raise in 2011 after the test score cheating scandal was swept under the rug. You know, I'm just amazed at all of the money that our city has to pay out, but we don't invest it in the things that it needs to go into our children, the homeless population. You know, it just amazes me when I look at everything that goes on in the city, and we have people who make so much money and there's so many problems. And I'm like, are they blind? Are they just not looking at it? How do you give raises to people that are my jobs that I worked at? I didn't get a raise if I didn't do my work properly.
Exactly.
My employees and got fired.
Fired, right?
Thank you. And then I was in management, and my employees who didn't do their jobs, they either got fired, they got written up, they were on probation. It was certain things that happened, but you didn't continue to get money. So I am just like, I'm so confused right now.
Wait a minute, Lady J, you got to look at it like this. One of my favorite shows was Little House on the Prairie. Where was their budget at for school systems? Because that's how school systems was actually ran. Now, the more money we get, the poorer the education system goes. That does not make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. And when
that's why I suggested, as this money is coming in from the government, there needs to be a separate entity that is responsible for funneling that money to the school system. It should, that's my personal opinion. It should not be given directly to the school system, to the governor or whatever. It should be a separate entity, or if it's coming from the governor's office, a separate business to say, hey, okay, I am in charge over this $1.8 million. Baltimore City, you have how many schools in your system and what are the needs? Okay, this I am sending to these schools, and this is what needs to be done with these schools. Send me back your requisitions, send me back your receipts, whatever the case may be, or whatever. So that way it's not going directly into their hands. You see what I'm saying? And this other business will be audited. You know, it should be something that's made public that everybody can see, you know. So that's just my personal opinion. Because
you're absolutely correct. But the problem is they gave all the power to the school board.
Right.
Yeah, the state is the one. And see, the money that's coming in, the federal funding that's coming in is coming from the president. The additional 197 million on top of the 42 million that was distributed last year went straight to the administration for them to hand out. And there was nothing
with no guidelines.
With no guidelines.
That's crazy. About the 107 that, you know, President Biden gave the instructions to think innovative, to reimagine education. And there's really no guidelines on the $197 million. So it could be used any way the school system wants to utilize it. How are we supposed to ensure, based on the history of misappropriating funds within the school system? You have David Anthony Wiggins on here right now that can tell you back almost 10 years ago, their organization, the Baltimore Black Think Tank, found millions of dollars being either misappropriated, missing, malfeasance at North Avenue was found at the time. And so how are we to trust you give them all this additional money without any checks and balances, without any metrics involved in it, that they're going to do the right thing by this money?
I don't understand how we got a $1.18 billion budget. A $1.18 billion budget with $197 million coming in, for 42 million of last year. How we're still at the same position.
Exactly.
But everybody got raises except for teachers. Everybody got funding except for teachers. That behooves the hell out of me, and it grinds my gears, because y'all are the ones who deserve it. Y'all and the students.
Correct.
If they would just took the pyramid and flipped it upside down and make it about the education first, which is the students and the teachers, we would not be in the position that we in, calling for a resignation of a CEO who did not want to be called a superintendent. She went and fought for that. She went and fought for her in 2018. She went and fought for her not to be called a superintendent of Baltimore City Schools, but a CEO. So all this lands in her lap because this is what she wanted. She wanted to be the one who signed the checks. She wanted to be the one who distributed the money. Right. And see, the other people that was supposed to handle that, she fired them just so she could get that position. That was cruel. It was selfish. And if you ask me, it's going to her husband's company, who has a hedge fund company, who wait a minute, this is the crazy part, who supplies clean water for disadvantages all over the world except for Baltimore City.
This is wow. This is just interesting. It's troubling, all of that. But let me tell you something. This is a true story. I taught for like 20 something years, and I told Rhonda on another show that she was on, when my son graduated from high school in 2014, I had just pretty much calculated that when I get his graduation date, I'm going to quit. And I was teaching at Howard Community College, teaching out of Howard County, which is totally different. Those schools out there have any and everything that they want. Those parents will fight to the end, and their children have exactly what they need in those schools. They're not lacking. So I had the bright idea that, I've done my time out here. Let me go in Baltimore and just, work in the community and go teach at the schools. I couldn't get a job at the public schools. So I decided to go to the vocational school. I get to the vocational school, the majority of my students cannot read. They can't read. So I decided I would get there an hour early every single day. I would come in an hour early, donate my time, and I sign students up. If you want to learn how to read so you can pass these classes, I'll teach you how to read. My supervisor pulled me up, wrote me up, and told me that I was not being paid to teach them how to read.
Wow.
I was being paid to come in and teach the class. And I'm telling you, it pissed me off because I'm a teacher at heart. So I want to teach. I didn't have to come in there for free. So I couldn't come in. So what happened was I had to end up failing a lot of students. Then I got in trouble for failing the students and not doing enough work to push the students. So one day I went to work, true story, went to work, I walked in and I just said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I turned around, the students were in the class, I packed up all of my stuff in the desk, I put it in my roller bag, and I walked out the door. And my supervisor was coming down the hallway. She said, Miss Jenkins, where are you going? I said, I'm going home because I just had enough. Like, I'm not going to keep coming. And there were students who really wanted to learn how to read, because the thing about students, once they know that you really genuinely care about them, they latch on to you and you become the mother, the friend, the sister, everything.
They trust in you.
They do. I have students to this day who still contact me. And the fact that she wouldn't allow me to do that, I walked off the job. And I felt bad leaving my students. Miss Jenkins, where are you going? I said, I'm so sorry. I can't do this anymore. And I walked off, and that was in 2014. And I vowed to myself that I'm never going to do anything in Baltimore City when it comes to the schools, because I know firsthand that they are not doing what they need to do to correct the problem.
Yeah, they asked Oprah Winfrey one time. She was at a function, a gala here in Baltimore City. And at the time, the discussion was about Warren Buffett and people like Bill Gates, who had made this commitment to give half of their billions away in philanthropy efforts. All right. And so they asked Oprah while she was in Baltimore at this gala, and they asked her, with everything that's going on with these billionaires giving away their wealth, Oprah, would you consider giving away some of your wealth to maybe the Baltimore City school system to help underprivileged children? And she said, I wouldn't give a dime. This is quoted. This is actually quoted in an article. She said, I wouldn't give a dime to the Baltimore City school system. Giving money to the Baltimore City school system would be like pissing money away. That was her quote, would be like pissing money away. That's crazy that you have one of the most powerful Black women in the world who have identified that, and she's spending philanthropy money all over the world, building schools in Africa. Why couldn't we get her to invest in our schools here in America? Well, one reason is that you have a broken system that has been identified as corrupt, that's been identified, unfortunately, as misappropriating money and not getting the services to the children. And unfortunately, people in the philanthropy world, they know this. They know not to get involved in a broken institution or a broken system like Baltimore City. So I found that profound, that here it is again, someone who is setting up and establishing education for women all over the world.
Won't help Baltimore.
But won't help Baltimore City, because
it would be like
pissing away. I mean,
well, I'll say this, I can only speak of my experience. I'm born and raised in Philly. I graduated from Virginia State in 1993, and I made Baltimore my home since then. And since then, I've been in Baltimore City as a substitute teacher. I taught in Baltimore County. I left Baltimore County to come back to Baltimore City, and I've been here ever since. I've taught at a level 5 school, and I've been at Reach since 2010. And just like you, Lady J, many a times I wanted to walk out, but I know I couldn't reach all, but I could reach one. And that's what made the difference for me. And that's why I stayed, and I love what I do. And in addition to loving what I do, I'm committed to change. And I can honestly say, and I can't speak for all schools, I can honestly say I've seen myself, as well as coaches, as well as teachers, as well as administrators, get to school early and leave school late.
Yep.
I've seen myself for the whole 14 months in this pandemic, every Saturday, feeding the community. They come through the school to get a produce box, groceries, or whatever the case. Not only just that, but giving out coats during the wintertime, offering pneumonia shots during flu season, PPE, Thanksgiving meals, all of that. You do what you do because you love what you do. And you can only start with change within yourself. And when you start doing it and others see what you're doing, not that they're bandwagon, but they're committed to it. And so with that being said, I appreciate hearing you guys share from the parents' perspective. It is my prayer that this year I have more parents that are more vocal, more involved. I know the hard work that the teachers at Reach do. I've seen them sacrifice their own family time to be at the school to make sure our kids are learning. I've seen our guidance counselors who came on right before the pandemic started, giving out their own home phone numbers. Yes, they're going to homes, knocking on doors, and doors getting slammed in their face. So I've seen them do it. I've seen them knock on doors. I've seen them call, email parents and whatever. You guys mentioned something about single moms going to truancy court. I know for a fact, because I was in charge of this piece, calling day after day to prevent these things from happening. So again, like I said to you before, it baffles my mind to hear the parents' voice through you guys when I know what we have done as an institution and trying to support parents so it don't get to that point. So I'm just hoping that this school year, whatever the good Lord presents to us, that we do what we have to do to ensure the safety of our kids, to ensure the safety of our staff, to bring forth change. If that means someone stepping down from their position in high authority, that we make sure we do our due diligence in making sure that we have someone who wants that position, who has a heart for children, who has
can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we put you on the list as a potential CEO? Because we're actually, no, they asked us if she was to step down today or tomorrow, do we have anybody to replace her? We do, but we want a numerous of people to have their place. If you're the one, and see, the thing is that we want somebody that went through the education system, who understands the education system. That would be you. So if you let us put your name on the list, then we can say, yes, we have Miss Rhonda McKenzie, and there's no comparison to her. She needs to be our CEO or superintendent of Baltimore City Schools.
I have one better. I have one better than me, and that's he probably killed me for saying his name, but that is the wonderful Dr. James Gresham. I would work with him anywhere, because from him coming from being a teacher, working at North Avenue in data for years, left North Avenue to become a principal. I've seen this man take kids home, work with parents. It's phenomenal. And a body is only as good as its head. So although we may be under Baltimore City Public Schools, our school has an awesome head. And everyone underneath of his leadership is just as phenomenal. We work together as a family. I want to give praise to, and I know she's probably not listening anymore, but Kenya over at Reginald F. Lewis, Carlos over at Frederick Douglass, my girl over at Patterson. And again, I'm mentioning high schools because I work more with the high schools, as you guys can see. But even Elizabeth over at Hartford Heights, these men and women do a phenomenal job at making sure, as a community school, Mr. Mr. Jason, you mentioned about the wraparound services, the mental and behavior support. You guys know it has skyrocketed. We have partnerships with Johns Hopkins, with Building Blocks America, with Bright Futures we have a social worker and a therapist right on site. So our kids can get those services. We have a health clinic. They can get anything from immunizations to pregnancy tests. We have after-school dinner programs. We have other partnerships with L2 Defense, which is a Black-owned engineering company right here in Maryland. They do a college and career readiness program with our students every school year. Creative Influence, a new grassroots organization that does after-school programming. Unique Fabrics. There's so many other grassroots organizations that's going into these schools and helping the schools. They get it. They do understand, and they get the concept of community schools. They get the concept of partnership, the funding, and a lot of these people come in with in-kind donations. It's not all monetary. They're volunteering their time. They're applying for grants to help. So I understand wholeheartedly what you guys are saying about that level of accountability, that level of integrity, to ensure that our babies are getting what they need, to make sure the parents are getting the resources that they need, to make sure that the money is being equally distributed to the schools and not putting Band-Aids over things. But most importantly, school starts Monday, guys. Our kids are going to be gracing over that door or logging on virtually. And even in the virtual school, they need support. And so to those that are listening, do what you can do. Drop off some hand sanitizer, some masks, show up at a meeting, show up to a school on the first day. A lot of schools are having welcome back block parties. Come on out. Make your
Wanda, aren't you doing something Friday?
Yes, ma'am. We're doing
on Friday.
Sure. Friday the 27th from 10 to 1, we're doing our welcome back block party. We have a DJ, we have vendors, we have music, we have games. We're doing free vaccinations, we're doing free HIV testing. We have a couple of PRP, mental and behavior support services that's going to be out there. Sharing what their services are about. We have a notary that's going to be out there sharing what they do. We also have a free charity basketball game. Well, not free, but a charity basketball game with the Baltimore Hawks playing against some of our former players from Lake Clifton. That's going to be at 1:30. Bring some school supplies or $5 to get in. And that's this Friday from 10 to 1. We want everyone to be safe. Hopefully I can get some free uniform shirts or free khaki pants to our students to come as they're coming back to school, because that's another need that you can't expect a child to walk into a classroom and beat down their head about ELA or about math or about science and they're hungry, or they don't have a school uniform, or they just had to drop off their little brother, or they watch their mom or their dad OD. You got to meet the whole child. So as a community school, this is something that we do. We meet their needs, their social emotional needs. We make sure they eat. We make sure if you need to see a therapist, you need to see one of the clinicians. We make sure if you need a uniform, bring it on downstairs to my community office. I got a washing machine and dryer. I'll wash it for you.
But
you ain't smelling too good.
Important. It's those type of services that are important. And to me, we can't necessarily put the blame on the parents that in some cases don't know any better. In some cases, because of their own challenges, can't do any better. I think that we have to understand the responsibility of educating our children, although it does start at home, is not the responsibility of the parents. That's not what it says on law. It says on law that the government has the duty to educate our children. And because of that, to me, it's important that the government thinks outside of the box when you have these, challenging environments that unfortunately will cause issues in reference to learning. It's important that the government puts the resources in. We're not talking about 50 or 60 schools throughout the city that have these needs. It's a very small block of schools that need these wraparound and supported services.
So we need to know what schools that you're referring to that are not community schools, because maybe what we need to find out from North Avenue is why aren't those schools community schools and how do they become one? Right. Because with a community school, they should have a community school coordinator, and it should have a health clinic in their school, and a social worker. Those are the three main points for them to become a community school. And Stephen, to answer your question, khaki pants. And for our freshmen, they wear Kelly green. And for our upperclassmen, they wear black or the Reach blue shirt. And they can be purchased at Herman's or Greenmount Avenue. Unfortunately, thank you, Miss Dorothy. We don't accept Cash App because we are a school that's accountable. I don't want my principal going to jail. So we have to write receipts for everything. So if you want, yes, and the psychologist. Yes, we have one of those on board too. So if you want to make a cash donation, you can bring it past the school. We will gladly write you a receipt. But yes, Mr. Jason, I'm curious to find out what schools you are referring to that are not community schools, because they need those four things in order to be a community school and run effectively and efficiently. And then again, we can start working together to make sure, you're welcome, Stephen, to make sure that they get those resources and understand what the community school initiative means, because Baltimore City is not the only one. There's the community schools in Philadelphia. There's community schools in Detroit. There's community schools in LA. And this is working because they understand the importance of getting the community involved in the school system. And so, again, thank you, Lady J, for inviting Jason and Yolanda.
Yeah, we have
a pleasure meeting you guys. Yolanda, I hear your heart, girl. I thought you wanted to beat me up, girl. I hear your heart. You're so passionate about what you were saying about the parents. I was like, oh, she wanted to meet me on the street.
No, I would love to meet you. We would love to work with you and partner with you because you are a beautiful person inside and out. And like I said, if I had to make a choice between Santa Lisa's and you would definitely be my go-to.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Mr. Jason, thank you so much for not driving and parking and commenting. I appreciate that so much. But I'm here to help. That's what I do. Reachwell is my home. I love my school, but I am there to support, and because we all in this together, because I probably have a high school student that got a sibling in one of those other schools as well. So,
and David Anthony Wiggins, before you go, make sure that you reach out to me because I would like to have you on and talk to you as well. So, I didn't put my number up on the screen, but the number you can call me at is 44. Oops, sorry, y'all. The number you can call me at is 443. 297-4753. That's for David Anthony Wiggins, because I would like to have him on the show. I wasn't able to get to all of his comments, but I would like to have him on the show.
He had a great comment too in reference to his choices, and I agree. One was Charlie Duggar, and the other one was Dr. Grundy, which I agree. But you saw what happened with Dr. Bunley over there in Walbrook. You know, many of us community activists went out there to defend him and fight for him. And that's the problem. And that's why I was kind of concerned and asked Rhonda what type of support was their organization getting with this initiative, because many times when you have these change agents like a Dr. Bunley that comes in and starts changing things and starts becoming effective, sometimes they don't get the support that they need, and they get the backlash. It's almost the same thing with the charter schools. We have some fine charter schools. Monarch was a great charter school. The charter school that former councilman Carl Stokes had was a great charter school. But we see that there is some sort of internal attack against charter schools and these schools that are thinking very progressive and outside the box and are having successes where other schools aren't at educating children that are coming from problem communities or from troubled communities. So, you know, there seems to be an attack, but I agree.
Well, Jason, you just answered your own question. If they was to leave these schools open and they thrive better than Baltimore, it just made Baltimore education system look crazy. So that's why they did what they did to schools that was chartered through Baltimore City with success. They ended them.
Well, I will say Reach Partnership is what we call a transformation school. And the only difference is that we're not chartered, we're transformation, which means we have our own operators, and Civic Works is our operators.
Okay.
So Civic Works funds money through Civic Works funds money through us.
To them all the time. Civic Works is a great program, a great job readiness, workforce readiness program.
Yes. So they were the ones who actually came up with the concept of REACH. And REACH actually stands for Reaching Education Through the Advancement of Construction and Healthcare. So that's what the REACH partnership stands for. So they are our operators. We've been going strong since 2008. I've been on board since 2010. Lord Jesus, it's been that long? Yeah. So yes, I understand what you mean about the charter schools. They are great. Monarch, they used to also, the owners of Monarch used to have the Children's Guild up on McLean Boulevard.
Yes.
I used to work over there with that was a level 5 school. And they had 3 group homes. I worked there as well before I came to REACH. So again, guys, I think it was
great work with Monarch. They did great work with Monarch. My grandbaby attended Monarch, and the children there were they were accelerating at a rate that was just amazing to many of us parents and grandparents at Monarch. So we were really disappointed, and we really tried to fight to keep Monarch open. So we're really disappointed. When you have these great schools in our community that are making the strides, we need to support them.
Mm-hmm.
We need not dismantle them. I know that there may be some unions, and I know that there may be some issues, and there may be some infighting with the unions from what we understand, because some of the charters are not union, and there seems to be this battle between the union schools and the non-union schools. But again, if something is working for the betterment of our children, we need to build on it. We need to expand on it. We need to expound on it. Why are we taking things away that are working?
Because it makes Baltimore City schools look crazy. That's why it's being done. That's why they're dismantling them one piece at a time. Because the more money that goes to them, the less money comes out the budget for Baltimore City school kid. Because the money is following them and not following them in Baltimore City schools. That's a problem for me. That's a problem that you're willing to put, like I said, keep creating educational homicide to these children for $1. And we go out here and we fight and we advocate, and we do it with no money, no funding, but we
and
think
barely
about
any
the children
resources.
Let me say this, guys. You talk about no resources. As a community school, I rarely have a budget sometimes to do things. I am very well pleased at the partnerships that I have been able to develop. Partnerships for our nursing program with Autumn Lake Healthcare, with Kennedy Krieger, with our pharmacy program with Giant and with Target, with our construction company. Our construction class. Those types of partnerships, and then other partnerships that do a lot of in-kind donations to us. And their in-kind donations can be anything from helping with school supplies, school uniforms, or running an after-school program.
But yet again, with a budget of $1.18 billion, why would you have to do that?
You're absolutely right. But you know what? And it frustrates me because I think about what more could I do if I had the funding, to do these things. Correct. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to I know that's a double negative. I'm not going to not allow my kids to suffer.
Right.
They need to be exposed to college and careers. I take them on college tours. I take them on field trips, educational and fun. I expose them outside of Baltimore. Let them see there's more than just Baltimore. We had a sewing class in our school. We had a poetry class in our school. We have one of our kids wrote a play.
Do you have civics? Civics? Do you have civics?
What is that?
A civics class.
Civics class. Teaching politics.
No, sir. But what we do, we have a debate team. We got a debate team, and they were going strong. So these things, again, you know what else happens? Our teachers are like, you know what? I want to do this after school for my kids. This is what we want to do in those competitions and everything. So, yes, Yolanda, if we had the money, oh my God, from Zion, what we would be able to do to offer our kids more. But since I don't even have lemons to make lemonade, I just got the peel. But my kids are excited. My kids have learned. My kids have gone on to college, trade school, and are working. This upcoming kids are coming in here. And again, thank you for saying that, Miss Dorothy. I question PNC, M&T Bank,
Mm-hmm.
Wells Fargo, Bank of
Yep.
America, the Ravens, the Orioles, Under Armour, all these major corporations, Domino Sugar, y'all just put up a brand new neon light out there. Come on. Y'all can't put money into the school systems. Y'all can't say, okay, or why not adopt the school?
Correct.
Adopt the school.
Exactly.
We have some great historically black colleges.
Exactly.
Why there are partnerships between Coppin and Morgan State and Maryland Shore, Eastern Shore, Maryland Eastern Shore, Maryland University. Why don't we have these partnerships? I don't understand that. But again, I think that in some ways, and I see you holding your mouth, but in some ways, I think again it goes back to leadership with vision, thinking outside of the box.
Why won't Morgan recruit? Y'all know Baltimore is a basketball town.
Correct.
Phenomenal players at Pulley, at Lake, at City,
Yes.
at Mervo. Morgan State only recruits for basketball players outside of the city. That's a slap in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Morgan is in my backyard.
Well, you know why, right?
Sorry for putting Morgan on blast. Morgan is in my backyard, Miss Yolanda. I've been trying to partner with their psychology department to get their interns to come over. I've been trying to do a dual enrollment program with them where my kids can earn college credit. Doors keep slamming in my face.
I'm gonna tell you why.
Does not like to do MOUs, but Towson did. BCCC did.
That's
but
crazy.
You gotta understand. No, but you have to understand that these kids is coming out. They see like everybody else, and when they start looking at certain things, they see that these children do not have the GPA that they need to survive. So the
right. Many of those children are taking remedial courses before they take their.
No, sir. I'm sorry. Again, I can't speak for everybody else because I know the work that I do.
Right.
My kids
I'm not saying your school.
They had the 2.5, the 3.0. They had the high schools for SATs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But trying just to get them to partner. Why don't you come on? Oh, and even if they did, like BCCC, I had kids that took remedial courses at BCCC while still in high school, but by the time they graduated from Reach, they had at least anywhere between 3 to 18 college credits that was transferable. So yes, our kids need that little extra help. Yeah, they all not, with it on par. But if you figure you take a 9th grader who's coming in taking English 1, you get them into the dual enrollment program, they may have to take a remedial English class, which will be remedial 92. By the time they become a sophomore, they're already in English 101. They can take a math class. Now, by the time they're a senior, they got college credits and they can go right into I've done this work. So, and not just me, but other schools as well. But again, I think you said it best, both of you. And that was the vision of the leader. It's the vision of the leader. If the president of Morgan, the president of Coppin, and the CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools work together to see the importance of making this partnership, forget about the money. Let them kids come. Let them come. The money will follow.
Correct.
But I'm sorry, I'm on another soapbox, and we're on here 2 hours, Lady J.
That's great. That was great.
No, I'm giving. You know what? I'm loving it because I think like teachers, people like Jason, Yolanda, you have to have an outlet. You got to get it out because otherwise you just get so angry. You want to beat somebody in the face because it just feels like nobody is listening. That's why I had to walk away because I was like, you know what? I ain't going to jail. I got to see my children and grandchildren. But it just gets you to that point where you just want to like go past everybody and just go yank that person up. Like, what are you doing? Because after a while, it feels disrespectful. That's how it feels to me.
Exactly.
You just feel disrespected. Like, that's why I have pulled back a lot. Like, y'all don't see me out on the street a lot anymore. this month in August, I was like, you know what, I got to pull back because I could feel my nerves getting up. Like the old me is going to pop up, and I'm gonna yank somebody up, and I don't want to do that because I'm trying
Lady
to
J, I'm laughing with you because a lot of my coworkers, when I get to that point, they say, "Uh-oh, here comes Julie from Philly,
yeah.
trying to come back
You know,
down
because
95. Come
I
back."
grew up in Philly. I was born here, but I grew up in Philly, and I graduated from there, high school. But the thing is, it's certain things that I'm passionate about. Education is one of them. The children and the elderly. I'm very passionate about that. So when I see y'all out there protesting, somebody had called me and said, "Lady J, you coming to the protest?" I was like, no, because I'm trying to be a better person, and I don't want to bring that old person back out. But when I see y'all out there protesting, and it's like it seems like nobody's listening, nobody wants to talk to you. That is disrespectful. You know, it's a slap in the face, and you sitting up here making all this money, but you can't come from off of your high horse to come down and have a conversation. I have tried to get interviews, can't get any interviews. That to me is just disrespectful. This is what you're getting paid. You're getting paid to do a job. And it pisses me off because, you know, for me personally, I chose to not put my son in the public school system in Baltimore because of what was going on back then. And it cost me a lot of money to keep him in private school to the point that when he got in high school, I was paying $1,422 a month to keep him in private school, working 3 jobs to keep this boy in school, to not put him at the school that he was slated to go to in my neighborhood, because I knew if I put him in there, they would have swallowed him up and he would have been out on the street. So for people like me, the school is right down the street, but I got to get in the car and drive all the way to another county and pay money that was more than my mortgage payment, you know, and you paying this every single month. It's not right. And so I'm real passionate when it comes to the school system. And people, you know, the one thing that struck me tonight in this whole conversation is that here you are in the school system. We already know COVID, the Delta variant is coming, and you don't have enough supplies to give a child a mask. And then you have to ask us as a teacher, drop off hand sanitizer, drop off. That's a no-brainer. That should be at the top of the list. Teachers shouldn't even have to ask for that. It should be more than enough PPEs and all this stuff in the schools. So y'all don't have to extradite. See, y'all got me started. I was trying to be quiet. That's why I've been sitting over here real quiet. I turned the camera off for a minute, walked away, took a deep breath, came back, because it just really, really makes me mad. I hate seeing Jason and Yolanda out there and Pastor Shannon, all these other people out here fighting and protesting for something that education has been here forever. It was here before us. Why are we fighting for it in the 21st century? You know, and our children, my thing is, like I said, I want these children to have the same opportunity as Santa Lisa has to have that kind of job. I want our young men and women to be able to go that high as well. But when you start blocking their education and not allowing them to be able to come to a school system that, you know, wintertime is coming. So how come every year we got to have this argument about children coming to school and they don't have heat? Then when the summer comes, we got to have this argument they don't have air. This has been going on for years. And I'm so tired of talking about it, but I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to take a woosah because I just feel so bad for these children. And not only that, I was out like all year. I was out in the community running across parents who were saying, "Lady J, I could not send my child to school this year. We couldn't get a computer." They went to the school system to get a computer, got a broken computer, and then could not return it or get another one. Some of them couldn't afford internet. I was giving people money. You know, it's just ridiculous because
what's crazy was there shouldn't have been any parents that had concerns about internet. Here's why. Comcast had millions of dollars of grant funding to give out. This is what was told by the executives when we had the digital divide meeting. At the time, they told us they had millions of dollars of grant money. Matter of fact, when Yolanda had inquired about it. They sent Yolanda a form to fill out to get the internet for a whole year for free. The
Wow.
internet in Baltimore City is accessible at every house. What should have been done, and again, I have to go back to the leadership. What should have been done was that partnership between Comcast and the school system should have been there. And every 80,000 student should have been ensured that they were going to be connected regardless to what the circumstances was. But we were at a digital broadband hearing that basically there were parents that we were bringing to their attention. Matter of fact, one parent is here right now. Dorothy is on here right now. Dorothy was spending almost $50 on prepaid internet service, and nobody had identified to Dorothy that she was eligible for Comcast Essentials for the discounted services. We helped Dorothy to ensure that her child Bree had access to the internet. Now, we are a grassroots organization doing that. That should have been done at the administrative level. That should have been done where the administrator already had that partnership in place, and those parents got access to the internet service that they deserved and needed for their children. There was no excuse. The ball was dropped at North Avenue, and some of the blame was placed on Comcast, who made millions of dollars during COVID. You had parents that for the first time had to work at home, may not have had Comcast service like they really needed for their work. You had millions of subscribers that had to upgrade their service, had to add their service because now they were virtually working at home. Comcast reported the best quarter ever last year in internet service. They had more add-on subscribers to internet service than they've ever had in their existence. And you mean to tell me that you couldn't have been good stewards to ensure that our children get access to the internet? That's why I used to work for Comcast. That's why I don't buy it as an excuse. I was a technician for almost 7 years. I know for a fact that connection is available to every house in the city. It's a matter of communicating. It's a matter of making sure that whatever the gaps are being fulfilled through communication through the leadership of North Avenue. This is not rocket science. You send people to the moon with less effort than you do to try to get these folks connected to the internet. Like I don't understand it.
And Jason, I want to just add on to that about the Essentials program, and it goes back to a point I said earlier. If you are a parent and you got a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary school student, and they all got a laptop they got to log on to, that Essentials program, that broadband Wi-Fi, all three of them couldn't be on at the same time.
Right.
Now it's a rippling effect. Now one kid is being marked absent or late for class because they didn't log on or whatever. So I'm saying Comcast, y'all could have did better than that. That was not enough.
Been resolved too.
Comcast.
What could have happened was those students that had those type of broadband needs, that could have been submitted to the school. And then the school could have easily communicated that to Comcast and says, look, we're not asking everybody to be at 50 meg service, but at this household where we have 3 students, it's important that we have a more premium level service. And they could have just tiered it out that way so that those students who had 3 or more in a household could have gotten the speeds necessary. This is not a matter of that the modems are not capable. This is not a matter of that Comcast is not capable of providing enough speed so that 10 or 20 people in a household can get access to it. They're capable of doing it. It's a matter of communicating to them that these are the needs of our children and making sure that they get access to those services. That's something that, again, the CEO, knowing what those needs are, those educational needs, should have been communicating, not us, because we were there at the meeting as a grassroots organization telling Comcast what it was that the community needed. It shouldn't have been us telling them.
Right.
It shouldn't have been. So I'm going to say this.
Correct.
As a community school, that information should have been trickled down. Your community school coordinator, along with the guidance counselors at the schools, know your kids. We could have did our own in-school survey to say, hey, if you have 3 or more siblings, fill out this Google Doc form so it can come back to us. That way the information would have been funneled up and we could have been able to handle that. I do want to make a comment. I think Latasha put a comment going back to about wanting to start a Youth Works program or whatever, and she got denied by Councilman Stokes. Latasha, let me tell you this, sweetheart, what you can do. You don't have to go. You can go to Youth Works next summer. They start in December. Okay. They look for, if you want to be a work site, you can just attend their supervisors meeting. You can become a work site. You can tell them how many kids you want to work with, and you don't have to go through a certain individual in order to be a Youth Works site to do the programming that you want to do. And if you want information about how to do that, just reach out to me. I'm at Reach Partnership. So this one of the things, don't let one bad monkey don't spoil the show. If God birthed that in your heart to do, we can find a way to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to find out, unfortunately, our chairman of the educational committee is one bad monkey. We had an interview today with him. Unfortunately, we had a virtual meeting with him today. This, I hate to say this, please don't take this the wrong way, but I am going to call it for what it is. This Negro had the audacity to not even come on and to present himself to the group. Wow. He was there on virtual, never said hello, never said good morning. And as soon as Yolanda said that we were responsible, that we are the group that's pushing for the resignation of Dr. Santelises, he all of a sudden said he had another meeting and jumped off of our Zoom call. Wow. He didn't even have common courtesy to just say good morning to the ladies, to introduce himself, to just be presentable and show some sort of mannerism, you know. And this is, unfortunately, this is the person that's in charge of our educational committee.
Disrespectful.
The person who's in charge of our educational committee.
And I think, Jason, I think another thing, I think we as citizens, as parents, grandparents, we have to figure out why they feel as though it's okay to be so disrespectful. And I think, you know, I've been wondering, like, where is that coming from, that you feel like it's okay, like you said, to not say hello, to not say good morning. Those are things that we were taught growing up. And you just feel like it's okay to be disrespectful to another grown person. I have such a problem with that. And I would love to have that conversation about why they feel as though it's okay. Why is it okay for you to go out and protest, and, you know, they can't sit down and have a conversation with you? And you're doing this not just for your children and grandchildren, but for all of the children.
Well, Lady J, I'm going to put it to you this way. I don't get ignored by our mayor. I don't get ignored by our city council president. I do not get ignored by our state attorney.
Even our governor.
No, and even our governor. So why do you feel like you in this lower level position feel like it's okay to do that? No, that's not cool at all. And then when Yolanda goes off being the angry black woman that I have the right to be, then I'm wrong. But I will be going after him. Even if I have to move to that district and not run for mayor, but run for his seat, I will.
Yeah, we're going to have to come back, guys, and have this conversation, because this is just, oh my goodness. Y'all done got me going now. I got to go take a woosah for a little bit before my next show start. But, you know, y'all just, like I tell you, be safe out there on the front lines. Rhonda, thank you for coming on, because I've had a hard time getting teachers to come on and speak. And thank you for being so candid and, you know, just putting it out there, saying what it is. And thank you for your hard work and dedication with the students. If you have any other teachers who would like to come on, you know, let them know it's a no judgment zone. How you feel is how you feel, but it does enable you to come on and to just express how you feel, you know, because you guys are, I know as a teacher, you're going through a lot, you know, just trying to figure this all out. And you got parents and everybody coming at you. So they can feel free, if they want to come on and let's talk about it, they can feel free to do it. I'm more than happy to set up a show where they can come on and we can have a conversation. Jason, thank you so much for all that you're doing out there. Yolanda, Girl, I just want to give her like a high five, a fist pump, or everything, because she's just like a warrior out there.
Yes, I and not forgetting getting a fight. I know I can call on her.
It's
You
so
absolutely
funny.
can.
It's so funny because when she talks, sometimes that's like how I used to be, and everybody used to tell me you got to change that because you always acting like you come across like you want to beat up somebody. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to change.
You have the
up.
right to be angry. If you're not, see, I
Exactly
on the platform. If you're not angry about what's going on out here, something wrong with you. That means you're not a part of the solution. You're a part of the problem.
I hold my hand up like this all the time and tell her to take it to a 5. And there is no 5 volume for her. So I
can't help it if I have authoritative voice. One.
That's right. That's what it is.
Everybody thought that I was going to be a minister or something like that. It's not my fault. It's okay for a minister to yell at you, but not Yolanda. Right. I have a problem with that.
Yeah, that's all right, Yolanda. Hold on to it. I love it. I love it. You look, you did it tonight. That's why I remain quiet because she got this. So I remain quiet. I ain't have to bring that side of me out. But thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that came on YouTube, on Facebook. Thank you to the people on the radio. David, make sure you give me a call because I would love to have you on and have this conversation with you about your role in this as well. And Latasha, you too. My number is 443-297-4753. You can text me or call me and then we can set up a date for a show. So you guys have a good night. I got to get ready.
It's a pleasure meeting you guys.
Y'all need to stay in touch.
I'm gonna leave my number for Dr. J to give to you. So could you please call me?
We gonna love on you, Rhonda, and ain't nothing you can do about it.
And we're gonna show up at her event to show her how much we love her.
Yes. All right. So Rhonda, tell us one more time the date and time for your event and the location.
August 27th, 2555 Harford Road at Ridge Partnership on our walkway. We are having our back to school welcome back block party with the DJ, music, vendors, free vaccinations, free HIV testing, and the highlight of the day is going to be the Baltimore Hawks playing against some former players of the Lake Clifton team at 1:30. Bring some school supplies to get into the game or pay $5 so we can go and get some more supplies and stock up our toiletry, stock up our food pantry so we can serve our kids this school year. Thank you guys again so much, and I look forward to seeing you guys in person. Be safe, drive safe, the two of you. Drive safe.
Yes, be safe. I don't know if they go to sleep because they always out somewhere, so I don't know if they sleep or not, because every time when I'm on Facebook, they out doing something, so I'm like, I don't know when they go to sleep, but be safe out there. I love you guys, love what you're doing. And God bless you all. Everybody, I'll be back on in about 40 minutes. We're going to be talking about on the After Dark show tonight. We're talking about the down low brother. Do you really know who you have? So we're going to have that conversation, put the kids to sleep. And we're going to talk about the down low brother. And it's based on a book that I was reading. And we're going to find out if you really know the man that you're with. Does he like women or does he like women and men? So we're going to talk about that tonight in about 40 minutes.
I'm glad I'm not a part of that conversation.
I'm going to bed, Dr. Lady J.
Look, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. But make sure your kids are sleeping. It's not a child-friendly conversation. But we're going to talk about it. I mean, if you down low, you down low. That's just what it is. But we're going to have a conversation about it. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.